Armagat, Carla, Cahirlach, I should say, and good afternoon, Minister. Minister, I very much welcome the opportunity to make some comments on this very important debate on whether this House should authorise the dispatch of a naval vessel, the William Butler Yeats, to the Mediterranean for about 5 weeks this summer. I'm very much supportive of the motion for a number of reasons. First of all, the arms embargo on Libya is very important and is maintained to maintain regional stability in accordance with UN Security Council Resolution 2635. I think it's also very important to recognise that Ireland actually voted for that resolution when we had a seat in the Security Council last year, so it's good that we're following through. We're not actually putting boots on the ground, but we are putting a hull in the water, so to speak, and it's very important that we're following through on our commitments at the Security Council table. Thirdly, I also recognise the importance from an operational point of view. A lot of young sailors may not have been around for Pontus and for Sophia. They'll be used to the North Atlantic, and they're going to get additional expertise inside the Mediterranean now, which will be good for their personal and professional development. My concerns are very similar to the concerns already expressed inside the Chamber. We are leaving a gap in our own defences here on this island, and yes, the Air Corps Maritime Squadron can provide some temporary filling of that gap, but there's no solution, Minister, no substitute for hulls in the water, no substitute for a maritime presence, and we absolutely need to get our naval service back up to over 1,000 people as soon as possible. From a welfare point of view, I do welcome the fact there's a commitment here, and I presume it's going to be delivered on, that the Overseas Armed Peace Support Allowance will be paid from day one, unlike what happened in previous deployments to the Mediterranean, so I welcome that. There's still a query about patrol duty allowance, Minister. There was considerable discussions about perhaps doubling this allowance over the last little while. It's only €60 a day, which works out about €1.20 after tax per hour. But it would be great if we get a commitment that this will be sorted, PDA, patrol duty allowance will be sorted before the William Butler Yeats deploys to the Mediterranean. It's the only way to address the recruitment and retention crisis in the naval service, to provide proper pay that people can afford to stay. So just lastly, from an Operation Irini point of view, I just want to wish the ship, William Butler Yeats, the commander, Lieutenant Commander Paul Hegarty, and the crew the very best on their important deployment. And most importantly, to wish the families as well, who are obviously holding the fort at home before the ship returns safely from foreign waters. I'm going to spend the last 2.5 minutes, Chair, just in relation to Sudan, a country just southeast of Libya. And I want from the outset, Minister, you could pass on to the Taoiseach a bit of gratitude in relation to the clarity he brought to proceedings yesterday when he was speaking from Luxembourg on national radio, in that these NEO-type operations, these non-combatant evacuation operations, they are humanitarian, they're classed as humanitarian in nature, so they don't require the triple lock to be satisfied. And it's really, really important. So he cut through a lot of layers of bureaucracy, of pontification, and of paralysis, basically, and basically assured the country that we don't need to limit the amount of troops we deploy to 12, which is very important. I'd also like to thank Deputy Richard Boyd-Barrett, and perhaps Deputy Murphy could pass it on to him. He made a very solid, sound commitment as well on News Talk yesterday, saying that he was in favour of getting large air freighter type aircraft so that we can rescue Irish citizens abroad and deploy our troops. And to be fair to him, that's a consistent position he's had for the last 3 years. Because I remember when Minister Keogh was the Minister and there was a battalion of Irish troops stranded in the Lebanon, Deputy Boyd-Barrett was actually keen then as well to get the proper resources so we could fly them home as soon as possible. So basically, Minister, from a legal perspective, these evacuation operations are good. From a political perspective, they also have the backing of the House. The question is, from a financial perspective, they don't. By any measure, I think the deployment of our troops over the last few days has been suboptimal. I think is probably the best way I could probably describe it in the most generous fashion. We need more investment in our armed forces. We're a complete outlier in relation to this in comparison to our European Union colleagues. And it's just not good enough. We're compromising their health, their well-being, and our citizens who are on the ground at the moment trying to get rescued. Just in the last few seconds available, I just want to pass on my compliments to our troops and to our diplomats in Djibouti and beyond at the moment. They really epitomise what the Irish public service and what our troops are like. This concept of the humble hero, they never look for recognition, they never really seek recognition either, and neither do their families at home. So I think the very least they deserve is the gratitude of this House, and I'm very happy to give it just now. Thank you very much, Minister. And thank